Yes. All right, good morning, everyone. I want to welcome the folks who are here standing with me. Superintendent David Brown, our Fire Chief Rich Ford, Public Health Commissioner Allison Arati, Business Affairs and Consumer Protection Commissioner Rosa Escareno, Rich Gaitis from the Office of Emergency Management and Communication, our host. And I want to also call special attention to Viola and Jasmine James of Viola's Day Spa in Beverly. This past evening, we saw a continuation of events over the past few days, however, at a decreased level. I want to thank our many public safety officers and city employees who have been working around the clock for days now to support our residents and communities and to keep our businesses secure. I want to give a special mention to the men and women of our Department of Streets and Sanitation and Department of Buildings who are still out in our neighborhoods along corridors, boarding up businesses that have asked for help. And let me just give you a few statistics on the work that they've done over the last few days. They have secured over 175 buildings, commercial corridors, North Avenue on the west side, Madison and Pulaski, commercial corridor, 95th Street, Stony Island, 47th Street, 59th and Wentworth, Ashland, Cottage Grove corridor, 87th Street, and 83rd and Kedzie, and this list will only grow longer. I also want to commend the efforts of our local aldermen who have all been out at all hours in their wards, assessing the damage, organizing volunteers, helping their business people, and really being what we would expect, true public servants at a time of need in their communities. I do want to also provide an update on our move out of shelter in place and going into phase 3 in our city's reopening. But let me say a few words first about what my personal observations have been over these last few days. Yesterday, I visited a number of neighborhoods throughout our south and west sides that have been impacted by the damage over these last few days. And just as you heard, you're seeing all this loss around you. These are businesses that have been gearing up to open tomorrow, but we're instead cleaning up debris, sweeping broken glass, and trying to tally the inventory that had been stolen from them. And also, of course, contacting insurance companies. It was hard to see, hard to take in, painful, because the expressions of frustration and anger and hurt at life's work and savings disappearing in such a callous manner was hard for many of these folks to take in. A lot of tears were shed. One business owner did burst into tears saying how much her business means to her. And I had to tell her, because I think we both wanted to embrace, but we just touched each other's arms and tried to be there as a support for her in this incredibly painful moment. She just broke down looking at the devastation that had happened in her business. But as hard as all of that was, and it was, I also saw people in communities who care deeply about each other and everyone in their neighborhoods. I was down on the far south side at a strip mall where there was a Jewel, and Alderman Mitchell had done an all call to people in his community. They had been out there to ward off the looters and were successful in some ways, but not successful in others. But they were there yesterday and had been there from the early morning to help the workers in that Jewel clean up, board up, and start to restock the shelves so that they could be open and available for people in that neighborhood. And I saw scenes like that with people in communities stepping up and reclaiming the territory, reclaiming the geography in their neighborhoods. And as hard as everything I saw was, When you see moments like that, and that was repeated all over the city, that gives you hope. Block by block, what I saw was, even amidst the damage, was a sense of pride in work, in communities, in families, of people who know their neighbors and know how to take care of them. And what I saw yesterday was also the power in the bond that truly, what it means, exemplifies what it means to be a neighbor, particularly in this time of need. That was a humbling experience to bear witness to the resolve and the simple notion shown in these incredibly compassionate gestures that I saw all over the city. After a lot of conversation with people on the ground whose lives had been shattered, and after a lot of consultation with local businesses, local chambers, local aldermen, and other elected officials, everywhere I went, I asked the question, should we open or should we delay? And to universal acclaim, emphatically, what I heard from people is, Mayor, we have to step forward. We have to open. Even those businesses that may not be able to open tomorrow, those owners told me, Mayor, we've been preparing, our workers are ready, we need to see our customers, they need to see us being resilient and recovering, even in the face of all the losses over 10 weeks, and particularly the devastating losses over these last couple of days. So I want to tell the city now, after a lot of consultation, and yes, a lot of prayer, we will reopen tomorrow and take this important next step as planned. That means numerous businesses and public spaces will be reopening to the public with limited capacity. These include personal services and retail stores, as well as restaurants and coffee shops with a focus on outdoor space. In light of the events over the past few days, we'll continue the work that we've been doing directly with local chambers of commerce and business service organizations to assist and secure the reopening process, particularly for impacted businesses. These efforts include increased and continued support for our neighborhood business development centers, because they can provide the technical assistance to help people get through this difficult time, as well as partnering with these groups to provide volunteers, insurance information, and financial relief options. We'll also help our small businesses connect with our PPE, the personal protective equipment marketplace that we set up way before the events of the last few days. We want to make sure that those businesses are able to take advantage of this resource in partnership with our local startup, Reaply. And as a reminder to everyone as well, we will also still be moving forward with our Open Streets plan to help our small businesses, particularly our neighborhood restaurants, have the extra space they need to safely welcome back customers and get their operations back on track. And I want to remind businesses seeking information to visit our city's reopening website, chicago.gov/reopening. There's a wealth of information and guidelines that you can use to help you navigate this difficult time. These guidelines are across industries. And for those of you who are explicitly represented, we have added a new feature to find guidelines that apply to you. 311 is also standing ready to answer your questions and direct you to the department that can help. We've also been working closely with local chambers to get them up to speed on every aspect of this transition and taking their feedback on what their members need. So they are a resource as well, particularly in communities hardest hit by the events of the last few days. And as part of this effort, we've created a direct line of communication between city officials and neighborhood chambers. And I've got to credit Commissioner Escareno for your hard, important work and the conversations that you've been continuously having with businesses and local chambers to help them know that we are here, we stand at the ready to help them. Businesses should not hesitate to call 311 or contact their local chamber with requests for support, whether it's board up, whether it's cleanup, or anything else that you need. We stand at the ready, and you don't have to wait. Reach out. I want every business in Chicago to hear me, and when I say that we are 110% dedicated to you successfully reopening safely and securely and getting back up on your feet. We want economic activity to resume peacefully and safely in every single neighborhood, especially those hurting the most. I heard that over and over again in neighborhoods that have been hard hit for years, that they need a lifeline and they need it now. And we need to be there for them. I want to encourage our customers to shop locally, to support those local businesses. That's going to be critically important for them to be able to survive. We want economic activity to resume peacefully in every neighborhood. And we're doing everything we can to make sure that that happens, but doing it, again, safely and securely. As we move forward, we will continue recovery efforts for the businesses that were looted. This will include continued police presence at grocery stores, pharmacies, that are vital to their local communities to allow them to restock and rebuild. And we are working diligently with CVS and Walgreens. We have told them, even in this difficult time, when your stores have been hit, we need you in our communities to be there. And we are excited about the efforts of Senator Duckworth to push both of these businesses to provide alternatives to customers who need those vital medicines, who need diapers and formula, so that we can provide alternatives while these stores are on the mend and recovering. And we'll be announcing more on that soon. We'll also be directly engaging with insurers to push claims to be paid now. No red tape, no bureaucracy. Get your agents out in these neighborhoods and start cutting checks. These businesses desperately need the monies to which they are entitled. And we are also in the process of developing a relief fund to supplement and support our small businesses from city and private philanthropy resources. And we'll be announcing the specifics around that fund as soon as we can. As we proceed to phase 3 tomorrow, I want to level set with everyone about the caution with which we must proceed. And there is a reason why we've called this phase, even before the events of the last few days, cautiously reopening, and why we branded this next phase as Be Safe Chicago. As you will hear from Dr. Arwady, the threat from COVID-19 is very much still with us. And we must maintain all of the public health guidance that got us to this point. And I know we've seen a lot of people gathering in the streets all around the city, some in peaceful protests, others in other forms. But whether you were out there for legitimate and righteous reason or for some other, you have put yourself at risk. That risk is real, it is present, and it will be with us for the foreseeable future. And you need to take the precautions, not only just to protect yourself, but for others in your network, in your home that you care about. Because now you are at heightened risk of COVID-19 infection. Social distancing and hand washing, staying home if you had COVID-19 symptoms or exposure, and wearing a face mask in public is critically important. With our move to phase 3, and our public health team are fully aware of the risk of an uptick and a surge in cases. We have to be cautious. We have to be careful, and that means you have to be cautious and careful. Let me also say this. I know that there's a lot of trauma in our city. It existed before any of the events of the last 10 weeks. It's been heightened with COVID-19 and even more so with what we've seen in the devastation of neighborhoods. That trauma is real. It is present. And I want to make sure that people are taking advantage of the resources for free that exist all over the city. I also want to speak to our young people and tell them that we hear you and we see you. And I know that you are concerned and hurt and angry and traumatized as well. But what I would ask of you in particular, because sometimes we adults lose our heads. Sometimes we say things that we should not. Be our example in the way you are with each other, in the way in which you are thinking about how you process the hurt and the fear that you are experiencing. Be the leaders for us and stand up. I say this all the time, our children are watching. I hope that they are seeing us stand up and stand tall in this moment, because we need to be there for them even more now. We will not let you down. We will be here for you and we will support you, even in this difficult and scary time. And I want to say to our city, the expressions of goodwill that you all have been engaged in every neighborhood, even in this time of your deepest fears, hang on to that feeling, because that's what will propel us forward. That's what will get us through this difficult time. We will be able to heal and recover from this trauma as we have throughout our history. It may not seem like morning is coming through this dark haze, but it is. And those glimmers of lights that we know exist everywhere in our city, in every neighborhood, in every race, color, and creed, please hang on to those moments. They are precious. They are needed now more than ever. Support each other. Check on your neighbors. Make sure your family is safe. Be kind to each other. We need that now more than ever. And now, welcome Superintendent Brown.